Du hörst gerade den Kolosser 2,7 Podcast, eine Produktion der Freien Baptistengemeinde Eichstätt, wo wir einander mit Gottes Wort aufbauen, um in dem zu verwurzeln, was wir in Christus sind. Ich bin der Aaron und sitze hier mit unserem Pastor Willi. Lass uns nun in dem Gespräch hineintauchen.
Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu dem Kolosser 2,7 Podcast. Ich bin euer Host Aaron und sitze hier mit ganz besonderen Gästen für eine ganz besondere Folge. Denn unsere Gäste heute können kein einziges Wort Deutsch reden. Letzte Woche hatten wir den Chor hier von Faith Baptist Bible College aus den USA. Seit den 70er oder 80er Jahren schickt dieser College, der gleiche College, wo ich war und Willi und Heidi auch, alle 3 Jahre ein Chor nach Europa. 2007 war es, glaube ich, als der Willi mit dem Chor in Deutschland war. Und ich weiß noch, die kamen nach Berlin und ich wusste, der ist der deutsch sprechende Student. 2013 und 2016 war ich mit dem Chor in Deutschland und es war einzigartig, Deutschland durch ihre Augen zu erleben. Denn die waren nie zuvor im Ausland oder zumindest nie zuvor in Deutschland. Und zu beobachten, wie sie Deutschland wahrnehmen. Also die Natur, die Kultur, die Leute, die Burgen und die Alpen, das alles kennen die von zu Hause gar nicht. Und es war richtig, richtig schön, das zu beobachten und eine neue Liebe dazu zu finden. Also dachte ich, wäre es eine Freude für euch, dass ihr mithören könnt, wie diese 3 Männer aus dem Chor Deutschland wahrgenommen haben. Und im Laufe von den nächsten 2 Folgen werde ich diese 3 Männer die Fragen stellen: Was hattest du von Deutschland erwartet? Was wolltest du aus deiner Zeit hier mitnehmen? Und was hat dich über Deutschland überrascht? Und am Ende, was möchtest du den amerikanischen Gemeinden über Deutschland mitteilen? Jetzt werde ich zu Englisch rüber wechseln und dann können wir erfahren, was die Amis über Deutschland zu sagen haben. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello.
Hey. 2 of you have been living with me the last few days.
Yes.
Yep. And 1 of you been living across town.
Yes, sir.
And I think it would be good if you introduce who you are, what your name is, if you want to, how old you are, and what you're studying at school.
My name is Wes Blomberg. I am in year 4 of studying to be a pastor at Faith Baptist Bible College and Theological Seminary. Look us up, faith.edu. And that's a little bit about me.
Our interesting story is that although we did not know each other, your brother and my brother spent a year together in Peru.
Yes. And you also went to school with my brother, didn't you?
Yes, your brother and your sister-in-law.
We've had a lot of indirect connections up until this point.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were divided up and paired together a few days ago, I did not recognize you as a Blomberg. But
Yes.
Then you said, I think you know my big brother. I went, oh.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do.
Small world.
It is a very small world.
It's a small world because we have a big God.
Yes.
All right, my name is Joseph Delich. I'm also from the U.S. I'm 22, and I'm a freshman in the Organizational Leadership Program, basically a Christianized business program. Well, some people might disagree with me on that, but that's what it is.
So this is your first year at Faith?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Where from the U.S. are you?
Minnesota.
Minnesota. And so if you could describe to someone that has never been to Minnesota, what is Minnesota like?
Cold.
Yeah. Cold. Well,
All 3 of us are from
actually,
Minnesota.
it's not
All 3 of you.
cold. It's more... It's flat.
Flat?
There's lots of beautiful cornfields, but unless you're really into that, it's flat.
Minnesota's flat?
Yeah, pretty flat. Unless you go up north.
Have you seen Nebraska?
No.
Nebraska's awful.
That's flat as a pancake.
Amen.
Well, I've always thought the cornfields were rather flat. But
Minnesota's in the Midwest, so all of us originate from the Midwest.
oh wow.
And that's a lot of farmland, It can be green, it can be dry, very cold, continental climate is what I call it.
And windy, very windy.
Windy, yes. And pretty hot too, honestly. 100.
But Minnesota is known as the state with 10,000 lakes or 1,000 lakes?
It should be about 20,000, but yes.
Yes.
We have a lot of lakes.
Well, some of them should be called ponds, really.
Yeah. And for the one or two enthusiasts of basketball listening, the Los Angeles Lakers originated in Minnesota because Minnesota is the land of 10,000 lakes.
Did not know that.
Me neither.
Oh yeah, that's why Utah Jazz is from Louisiana. That's not from Utah.
Wait a second.
Or the Sacramento Kings are from Kansas City. That's why you have the Royals there too. So all these teams have moved around in the past.
You know more about sports than I do. And you're in Germany.
Basketball, yes. Other sports, not as much. But at Faith, I played soccer, and you play soccer.
I do, and I'll introduce myself right now.
Okay.
My name is Seth Elliott. I'm a fourth-year student at Faith, studying to become a pastor, and I'm like these other guys from Minnesota.
And you guys are here in Germany with the chorale. Why? Or I'll ask this question first. What idea did you have of Germany before you came?
Germany, I only knew of as a historical landmark, really. There's a lot of history.
Nicely said.
A lot of history to put into my mind.
Yes.
But it's been really neat to see the history unfold in picture, in all the senses.
I can agree with that.
One of the most shocking things about being in Germany has been how old Germany is and how young the United States is.
Yeah. Like today, we were visiting a castle, and I was pointing a brewery at you guys that was founded in 1492, the same year where Columbus crossed the ocean blue.
Yep.
So Germany's very old, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, what impression did you have of Germany, or what idea did you have of Germany before you actually came?
Besides what I learned from in history, not much. It was just I hadn't really studied into the modern German culture, but I was, under the impression that many Germans were under the same. What's the word for groups of people that's not necessarily true? Stereotype of, calm, stern, hardworking, but also kind of cold. But I've been proven wrong. Of course, I really didn't think about it. I just was like, okay, I'm going to Germany. I'm kind of a winged person. So.
Did you think everyone would be wearing lederhosen?
What on earth is that?
You don't know what lederhosen are?
Is that like a pantyhose? I don't know.
It is not. It is not. Okay, we are recording this before Sunday, but on Sunday, you're going to see someone, in all likelihood, will wear lederhosen.
There was a guy wearing lederhosen the other day.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Leder is leather, hosen is pants. So a guy wearing leather pants.
Okay. Okay.
And it's a traditional Bavarian garb.
Oh.
And even though it's traditional, many people wear it on a regular basis.
I mean, that seems practical. I mean, it's basic. Is it European jeans?
It's southern Germany work attire, which has become traditional enough that you wear it for special events.
Oh, nice.
Like there's some small villages here where Fridays is a day where the teachers will show up in their lederhosen, for instance.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
How about you?
Honestly, I didn't have many expectations coming into it. I, aside from history, knew very little about Germany. I know it's been kind of the centerpiece of a lot of moving empires and a lot of different areas. Just different emperors, A lot of different kings have come and gone through here, but I really haven't heard much of it even post-war. So coming into this, I didn't have much expectations. I didn't expect people to be running around dancing with lederhosen and beer, which hasn't been the case.
It was like 2 weeks ago.
Yes. It hasn't been the case since I got here. So
There was my boss is part of traditional Bavarian dance group. So yes, a few weeks ago, he was in lederhosen with a mug of beer, and yes, he was dancing with this. It's some kind of like a wreath, and it's something they do every 7 years to celebrate the end of the Black Plague.
Oh, that's precious. I love that.
No, like after the Black Plague, the government wanted to invite people to get back into life again and have joy in life, and so they started dancing to celebrate. Hey, come join us. Come have a good time. Let's live life again after the Black Plague. And now, hundreds of years later, they still do that every 7 years.
wow.
Nice.
Wow.
We don't have that type of tradition in America. We just got, what? Sports?
I have a few more things to add.
Okay.
So along the line of what Joseph said, I expected the German people to be generally as a culture more cold. It's been much warmer and more community minded than I had anticipated.
Yeah.
I would have thought much more an American mindset of we live isolated lives, we go to work together, but then we kind of just ignore each other when we're at home if we're neighbors. Maybe we'll say hi occasionally. But that has not been the case. The German people are very warm. They love to sit around the dinner table for hours and talk, and it's wonderful. I love it. I'm surprised by the number of Fords I've seen, American people, just because it's Europe.
Yeah, that is accurate. I have not seen them very often until I came to this town, and I think because there's a lot of construction firms in the area, they tend to like show off their skills by owning a pickup truck because that's so uncommon over here. But yeah, it's surprising to see Ford pickup trucks.
I've seen 8 Jeeps when I'm here too, and that was surprising.
Jeeps,
Wranglers, 8 Jeep Wranglers.
You do find those.
Yes.
But there was a really like an old Ford pickup truck in that really classic, like that beige orange color. There's one of those driving through town.
Nice.
But the town here, the streets are so narrow that it takes up most of the street. So it has a hard time driving through town.
Country car there.
I think I'll second what Seth said about I didn't expect much. I grew up in a very German culture up in northern Minnesota, and a lot of German people, a lot of just even how people relate to other people in northern Minnesota it's generally pretty, I wouldn't say cold, but it's just harder to relate to people. It takes longer. It takes years to get to know people well. And so coming back to a environment like this, it didn't feel much of a shift.
Okay.
I didn't know what to expect, but it actually feels a lot more of what I'm used to. And just even relating with people. I think the difference being that the German people, like Seth said, love to fellowship.
Yes, they do.
And that's completely different from, you'll sit around the table for hours. And that seems to be the centerpiece of the family home is when you're around the dinner table, that's your focus. Your family's your focus.
It is, yeah.
But also, even in a church environment, we are a family. And that has really struck me. And the fellowship that takes place there, that's been incredibly just revealing in my own life and how I push those things aside, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself.
No, it's good. The German that you guys have experienced, for the most part, have been amongst these believers in Christian circles.
Yes.
And it's true that we have a warmth there because we value very much when we find someone of like faith and practice, because that's so rare. So there are some stereotypes that Germans could be more cold and more distant. And it is based on a lot of reality. But when you're coming here and visiting us, you're seeing a much warmer side of Germany. Germans can be very, very warm and welcoming. Usually, it takes a long time to get to that point. But here, it's almost instantaneously, hopefully.
Well, outside of the sphere of being in a church environment here, we had flown into Frankfurt, got on a train, went to this little cafe, and I wanted coffee because that's the first thing I seek out. So I went to a little cafe, not thinking about what money I was going to use. And so walk in the door, start talking to this guy, and I said, I'm English, so can I get an espresso?
You said you were English?
Or American.
Okay.
I said I speak English. Yeah, that's probably said I was English. But then he was just starting to warm up the machine, and I said, wait, do you accept Visa? He's like, oh no, sorry, not over 10 euros. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I won't. I didn't realize, I haven't gotten to get cash yet. And then I left. And so we finished our meal, we were getting ready to go canvas in the town that we were at, and this dude came and found me with a little cup of espresso.
Really?
Yeah. And he gave it to me for free. And it was I'd never met this guy before in my life.
That's unusual.
And I was like, if this is German kindness, then I like this. And so that was
Key to winning an American, give him coffee.
But that kind of kindness is not a kindness that I've known before. And so that made me very excited for what was to come on this trip.
I would say the people in the States are generally more friendly, but I would say in part it's more shallow. Whereas here, if someone is friendly, it's way more genuine.
Yes.
And I think that's a little bit of a difference between here and the States. You guys are actually on summer vacation right now. So why did you want to come to Germany? Why were you here? What did you want to get out of this trip?
One, the experience, two, the opportunity to minister to those outside of my own sphere of influence is definitely an opportunity that I don't think I should pass up.
Okay.
And on top of that, one thing that my parents have always told me, and my dad actually went on several trips outside the U.S., he said, it's really good for you, it's really eye-opening. And it has been very eye-opening for me, because in spite of the language barrier, in spite of the cultural differences, we're able to get along. We are able to fellowship in spirit and in truth, really. And if it's similar here, why? It'll probably be similar in Africa, in China, in Russia, in Brazil. The world is opened through Christianity. We are not limited by what we speak.
That's accurate. You can go up to someone and not be able to speak their language and still communicate that you love them, that you care for them, and have joy in the fact that you share the same God. And that's something that is very unique.
Remind me of the question.
Why did you come on this trip?
Why did I come on this trip? Partly it is a really neat opportunity to use the gift of music that God has given to minister to churches. At Faith, I've had an opportunity to do that already through our Uplift ministry team, where we travel to different churches, a small group of us, singing, and then I had the opportunity to preach a few times. And just like we've had here, we had a lot of interaction just in family homes, Christian homes, enjoying fellowship with Christians of all sorts. So part of it was the neat opportunity to minister through music here in Germany. Certainly there was a cultural aspect that I was excited about. Get to travel outside the U.S., which is very exciting.
This is your first time outside the U.S.?
I've been to Canada.
That hardly counts.
But yeah, it's almost U.S. So it's been much more of a culture shock coming to Europe. The other part that I was excited about coming to Germany was to see the mission field, to see boots on the ground missions.
Okay.
What does it actually look like for a missionary in Europe to be in the daily life?
What does boots on the ground mean? What's that reference to?
Boots on the ground. That is it's a phrase that means the regular flow of life, the everyday interactions of life. So I wanted to see what does it look like for a missionary to go through his Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The normal interactions of life. And it's been neat to see that in the different churches here in Germany.
Did any of you come here with the intention, maybe God is leading me back here?
We're open to it. I think all of us are open to it, but we're not, looking for it. We're just, like, okay, open the door, God, or don't. I don't.
Well, there was a missionary here for several years, and he said that the reason why he went with the chorale to Germany in the 90s, I think, no, maybe 80s, was he wanted to, when he becomes a youth pastor, he wanted to better be able to pray for the missionaries in Germany.
Aw.
And then he became a missionary in Germany for 20-some years.
Nice.
And then my dad came here, and to him, he said, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And then, as a group, they were praying that someone would go back to Germany. And then one of his friends said, yeah, next time when I come back, I'm going to get some good hiking boots. And my dad said, what do you mean come back? You're never going to come back here. This is a once-in-a-lifetime situation. And his friend said, no, I think God's leading me back to Europe. And that's when Dad was like hit in the face and thought, wow, this whole time we've been praying that God will send somebody, and what if God is using me to answer that prayer? So my dad as well did not come here with the intention of staying, but God still led him in that way.
Yeah.
I know I've been praying for you guys that one of you decides to stick around after all.
It might take a couple years. I mean, we got an education to finish, right?
As the Lord leads. Yeah, we've been praying for that as a choir too, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
As a choir, we've even leading up to the trip been praying that God would stir some among us that God would lead us to missions in Germany. So it'll be interesting to see in the next few years what God does through that. What even conversations that have happened in the last week with the churches here, that how God will use those to spur some of us on to missions in Germany or other places in Europe too.
Yeah, a recent missionary with Baptist in Missions is going to Holland. So we were on tour together 2016, I think. And there it was Holland, Belgium, Germany, and I don't think we did France that year. But the Lord led him. This is Kyle Klein I'm talking about. Led him to Holland. So, of course, I wish when he comes to Germany. But I won't be mad if you guys go to Holland or France or Belgium or some other country here in Europe.
Yeah.
Probably not France, though.
Not France?
Wow. Well, maybe I've just never really been to France, so I don't get it. But what's wrong with France?
Well, here we poke fun at each other, at other European countries. And I love Paris. And then the joke I would say, and in part it's not inaccurate, is unfortunately Paris is filled with French people.
Well, I mean, it's in France.
Yes, you poke fun about it, but you cherish for those countries, for those kind of quirks and personalities. If you're in Paris and you want to talk to someone, you cannot speak English. They can speak English fluently back to you, but you have to humble yourself and brokenly try to speak their language. Then they will accept your try and speak perfect English back to you. So it's that kind of attitude which causes countries to poke fun at each other.
Okay. Well, I'm certain if we ever go to France, they're going to have something similar to say about you.
Oh, they do. That's why when we traveled to France, we made sure to emphasize that we were Americans, not Germans, because they weren't keen on Germans coming to visit, but they did not mind Americans. So it is very interesting.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, who are very, very... Which two states are always at each other's throats, maybe in the sports leagues?
Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Minnesota and Iowa, Minnesota and Nebraska, Minnesota and Illinois, not Illinois as much.
A pattern.
No, why is it Minnesota? I don't even watch the sports.
Iowa and Missouri. Basically, any of those states around Iowa, they all poke fun at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun and good nature.
Go Vikings.
Oh.
All right.
Have to get that out of your system?
Yes.
Wenn wir noch weiter reden, ist es zu viel des Guten. Also tune in nächste Woche, wo es heißt, was haben die Amis über Deutschland zu sagen. Und bis dahin, Gottes Segen.
Danke, dass du diese Folge des Kolosse 2,7 Podcast angeschaltet hast. Wenn du mehr Content von uns finden möchtest, kannst du gerne unseren YouTube-Kanal besuchen, auf dem wir jeden Gottesdienst live übertragen. Der Glaube ist unsere Verbindung zur Wurzel. Gott baut uns durch unseren Glauben in Christus auf, also lass uns tiefe Wurzeln schlagen.